morning, God's peace to you all.
Good morning.
We're going to be moving from the fifth commandment to the sixth commandment, and this page 81 in your Catechism, and the commandment is, and it has a heading here in your God's gift of marriage. You shall not commit adultery. What does this mean? We should fear, love God, so that we lead a sexually pure and decent life in what we say and do, and husband and wife love and honor each other. Now, we all know that there has been a bombardment against traditional marriage or Christian marriage, if you will, and many times we find ourselves caught in the secularization of understanding of marriage, and this is something that we need to be very careful for, especially for our youngins, our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren, that we somehow must get across to them that this is something that is a gift from God. How can I put this to you? You know, there's something inherently good about having a long-term relationship through the ups, through the downs, and through the peaks and the valleys, the joy, and so forth and so on. And we're missing out on that for various reasons. And some of it has to do with there's no sense of shame anymore. You know, I would think that years ago, if you cheated on your husband or your wife or whatever, there was a sense of shame and disappointment and so forth and so on. We cannot have a society whereby our children are not being raised by parents of the opposite sex for various reasons, and that there is some sort of continuity. Now, let me just share something with you. My mother and father, God bless them, they were totally dysfunctional. And I mean that in a very sincere sort of way. As a matter of fact, some of that dysfunction has trickled down to me. But the truth of the matter is, and I've said this numerous times to you, that if my mother wasn't home and my father wasn't home, I would have wound up in prison or dead. That's the God's honest truth. And now look at how many children today are being put into a situation where they're single parents of same sex. The whole thing is just, you cannot. You know, one of the things that, whatever you feel about our president, you know, make America great again. I'm not going to get into that whole thing, and I've said this from the pulpit. You will not make America great again unless we go back to the family. Whatever you feel about him or whatever, underlining psychopathic understanding of what we're doing in our lives that's just, it's totally dysfunctional. And I don't mean to put anybody on the spot. The other thing that I wanted to say to you was that the Sixth Commandment also points us to the whole idea of same-sex, you get the gist, all right? You get the gist. I don't know what the answer to this is, but anyway, we need to, let's turn to the heading 55. How do we lead a sexually pure and decent life? We lead a sexually pure and decent life when we, A, consider sexuality to be a good gift of God, and that's Genesis 1:27-31. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. Talking about, I know it was a year or two ago, I went harshly, I went, from the pulpit, I went really harsh against this whole same-sex marriage and about the potty wars as well. This is contrary to God's law. It's absurd. It's completely absurd. And I needed to do that. I needed to say that. Whatever somebody might think of me, whatever they say, my intentions here are to point out to you Genesis 1:27. God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He created them. God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. I had no other choice than to pronounce what was, I believe, a devastating evil. Anyway, B, honor marriage as God's institution, the life-form union of one man and one woman. How many of you remember Kenny Rogers, through the years, my wife and I have been married a little bit over 30 years, and does it go fast or what? I mean, whoa. And there's nobody that knows me more than my wife does. She knows me, you know, after a while you say that you're thinking it, she says it. It's the craziest thing in the world. I don't know what that's all about. And that certainly is a gift from God. Now, I want you also to realize something, that this, something that you might not consider. Not all marriage was predicated on romantic love. Sometimes marriage was prearranged, and you did what you had to do, and you may do with what you. As a matter of fact, sometimes these prearrangement marriages were better than some of the romantic love, because romantic love is momentary. You know, a lot of throughout history, marriage was a convenience of taking two families and putting them together and whatever. The simple fact of the matter is, I just want you to be aware of the fact that we are under assault in various ways. I think we're gonna skip this section for a while. Okay, so the seventh commandment. Let's go to page 85. God's gift of possession. You shall not steal. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not take our neighbor's money or possessions or get them in any dishonest way, but help him to improve and protect his possessions and income. There's anybody want to say anything about that particularly before we move further?
One more needs to be said. He says thou shalt not steal.
There's a lot of stealing going on, though, isn't
And
it?
it's not like a guy going in robbing a store.
No. No.
If people cheating out of it, that's stealing.
No.
In Luther's large catechism, there's a good excerpt on the seventh commandment. I want to read it. And he considered that people who, in those days they had markets, got to put a little bit extra weight in one, and
The old thumb on the scale, the budget thumb, yeah.
Finger on the scale.
Yeah.
But that's good in the large catechism.
And one of the problems that you have is when one steals from another and another steals from another, then what happens at that point is it's just a continuation of people trying to get back what was stolen from them. It's the most amazing thing that occurs.
But do you ever? But do you really ever
Ever what?
get back
No.
somewhere it's going from? No.
I'll tell you the greatest theft of all, in my opinion, is the theft of reputation. You know, you can to steal somebody, to slander somebody, and this goes into another commandment though, but to slander somebody and make stuff up about somebody or whatever, it is to me the greatest theft of all, to steal somebody's good name. I mean, all you really have, you know, they can take away everything that you have, but if you have a good name, meaning that you have some sort of integrity, that your word is your word or whatever, but they steal that from you, that to me is devastating. But
when you go, say, to have your car worked on, and they charge you for things they don't do, I'm sure they don't look at that as stealing, but it is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's correct.
You know,
it is.
they may say they replaced your water pump and they didn't, and you don't know the difference because you can't look at it and tell. But that's
One of the things that there's a guy that has you talk about cars and so forth. There's a guy that does auto repairs down the block from us, and I trust him with my car. But you go to these dealers, some of these dealers, they'll just, you know, I brought that Impala that I owned before. I went through $3,000 and just, for what?
It didn't run any better afterwards?
No, it didn't. No, it didn't.
That's pretty common.
And what Tim does, Tim only does what he thinks needs to be done, and I trust him. And that to me is maybe worth another couple $100, whatever. So, because I know, and the reason why is because I remember when my mother still had her car, he said, don't get the air conditioner fixed in this car. It's going to cost you an arm and a leg, and it's going to be worth more than the car is. At that point, I trusted him. So, anyway, yeah, you can. Stealing is and the other thing is that it costs society, and it costs people money. You know, it's amazing what it will do. So, anyway, I think that which brings us, if you will, to the 8th commandment, God's gift of good reputation. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor. What does this mean? We should fear and love God so that we do not tell lies about our neighbor, betray him, slander him, or hurt his reputation, but defend him, speak well of him, and explain everything in the kindest way. What does God forbid in the 8th commandment? God forbids us to tell lies about our neighbor in a court of law or elsewhere. That is to lie about, lie to, or withhold the truth from our neighbor. Now, one of the problems that we're having and I don't want to get into this too deeply, but there's certainly a lot of corruption in Washington, D.C. And perhaps there's corruption in Washington, D.C. because we're corrupt. We very easily have things roll off our lips to slander other people, to tell lies and fibs about other people. And what has happened is, I'll give you a good example. There's a famous line from Abraham Lincoln after the Battle of Antietam, when in one day, it was the bloodiest day in American history. Everybody thinks it was the Civil War, but the Gettysburg was 3 days. Antietam was only 1 day battle. And Abraham Lincoln turned to, I guess, one of his cohorts, and he said, what will the people think? What will the people think? I don't think most people in D.C. care what we think anymore. You know.
Well, that's pretty obvious when you listen to the news.
Oh.
And the news people are the same way. They don't care what you think.
Well, and one of the things is, if we're doing it, then we're not so apt to condemn others that are doing it, is what I'm saying. And it's trickle-down immorality, I guess is what I'm talking about. You know, years ago, you would be not years ago, sometimes in history, we realized that a man's reputation or a woman's reputation was paramount. And people now are throwing things around like it's just, well, and the reason why is because perhaps we're doing it. I mean, if you're on social media, for example, and you see some of the vile stuff that's said about people that don't even know each other, it's just amazing. So God's gift of reputation, can we all agree on the fact that the 10 Commandments are in fact still relevant to us in our lives? It hasn't changed, and yet.
What is truth?
Well, and that's if there is no absolute truth, then there's no absolute morality, and if there's no absolute morality, what you have is chaos, and that's exactly what we have now. That's what we have now. Today's sermon, I'm going to be talking about the existence of evil, the reality of evil in the world, and if there's one thing that we as Christians need to comprehend and understand is there is things like evil in the world, and there are things like sin, which is contrary, by the way, to most secular understandings of reality. There's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever your wrong is your wrong. My wrong is my wrong. And you cannot have a society, you cannot have a people of God that this is what you have. It's just not going to work out. So, anyway, so we left off with the 8th commandment, and I would ask that all of you take home your catechism and review some of those the 6th, 7th, and 8th commandment, and which brings me. I'm just going to do this very quickly. The 9th, 10th commandment basically is the same commandment, only that which is in the house or outside the house, but it is God's gift of contentment. How often we as Christians fall into this thing that we're never happy, we're never content, not happy, we're never content with what we have or what we're doing. And what happens is you're always looking for the future so that you'll get what you want. And really, when you get what you want, it's really not what you want anyway. It's really devastating for us as Christians to play this game in our lives. Anyway, in closing, I would like for you all to review the 10 Commandments again before we get into the sacraments and absolution and confession. Anybody want to close off on anything? Any special prayers?
Special prayers for all the people in Florida.
Yes, yeah. Talk about the ripple effect of sin and evil. It's so sad. I have to tell you, I was just so disgusted. I haven't watched the news for a week and a half. It was just...
If you want to have a good cry, watch it.
Oh.
It'll make you cry.
Oh, I know. One of the things that, what was it, Ash Wednesday, was it? Ash Wednesday? Yeah, Ash Wednesday. I was having a bit of a faith crisis. I just did not, I just couldn't, I couldn't find words. So that's why we did the Christian questions and answers, because I just didn't know.
But that was applicable.
Oh, yeah, no, it's a good, we should do that once a year anyway, really. Maybe not Ash Wednesday, but,
But on Ash Wednesday, getting ready for the 40 days of Lent.
yeah, it's a good.
It's not good.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was, I have not had a good week because of this. Did you know, at the Vegas shooting, I don't know if you knew this or not, but one of our largest Lutheran high schools is in Las Vegas. And there was a class that went to that concert, and 2 of our children were killed from our high school, and several were wounded. So anyway, let's bow our heads and say the